My name is Gerald. I'm with the State Engineer's Office, and in actuality, I'm in the satellite office down in Charleston, and I manage that office along with all the people who are there, which includes me. You probably know Jim McVeigh. He does the same thing up here in the Spartanburg area. So we are the satellite office people, and then we have our office in Columbia, which Stan Gailey is a part of, and oh, there is Jim McVeigh right there. He snuck in on me. So Jim's here also. But we're glad to be here and have an opportunity to chat with you a little bit about the things that are happening at the State Engineer's Office. And let's proceed here. So what I hope to talk to you about a little bit is the duties of the State Engineer's Office, a little bit about what we're doing with AIA for the AIA contract documents, some of the manual revisions that we've had, the adoption of the 2015 building codes that's coming up here pretty quickly. We also had a restructuring implementation plan that was put on not too long ago, which I'll speak a moment about. The modifications that could happen to the procurement code. An interesting thing called service level agreements that we're going to be using. We'll talk a little bit about our Energy Independence and Sustainable Construction Advisory Committee. Besides needing to find a smaller name, we're going to talk a little about that as well. And then we do have a new architect in our office down in the Columbia office, Clint Burdett. We won't talk about him, just other than there's a new guy down there. Excuse me. The State Engineer's Office is the authority having jurisdiction for the design and construction of state-funded buildings, and that's from the state law 10-1-180. The State Engineer's Office does not serve the K through 12 community. That's the Office of School Facilities. Nor do we work with DOT unless their projects deal with building code type functions. So we will not get involved with their buildings and roads, but we may get involved with their rest areas and other buildings that they use for maintenance sheds and that sort of thing. Some of our clients that we have then obviously are things like the higher education, Department of Natural Resources, mental health, so on and so forth. Wood can be used in any of the designs that we review in our office as long as the building code allows it. So one of the questions that Pat had going to John White and then to me was, do we allow wood in our buildings, and what type of wood do we allow in our buildings and so on. And the idea is that if the code allows it, we'll review the code and we will allow it also. We don't have anything that we hold back on the code, with the exception of, as you noticed there in the last one, fire retardant treated wood. Fire retardant treated wood is not allowed in structural applications. However, with OSE approval, it can be used for non-structural purposes in low humidity locations. Now the reason for that is there were some building failures some years ago, and I believe it was mental health that had those roof structures fail. A chemical reaction between the plates and the fire retardant wood. We didn't say you can't do it anymore, but I believe, correct me gentlemen, I think it was Department of Insurance and also JBRC, I believe. Is that right? Put the moratorium on us using fire retardant treated wood in structural purpose, in structural applications. So, and I've talked to fire retardant treated people who say, oh, we've changed the chemical makeup since then, and that's great. Glad you did. You need to convince the people who have a higher pay grade than I do that you can do that, and if you do that, we'll certainly allow it again. As far as the documents are concerned, what will become known as the SCOSE edition, which is the South Carolina Office of State Engineer. We've worked with AIA for a number of years and just recently got in touch with them after we saw that the Kentucky Department of Education had worked with them and created a Kentucky Department of Education AIA form. Your A201s, A101s, B101, so on. And they include that in. You know, some of you may know, as we work with our contract documents, we have another package of supplementary conditions that goes behind those that says delete paragraph such and such or insert paragraph such and such into different parts of the AIA documents. We've been able to work with AIA recently and get it such that we are going to have documents that will already be a clean AIA document from the AIA website that you could buy, which is the SCOSE edition. These documents will be clean. They won't have the strike-throughs through them. Rather than have our package of supplementary conditions that will go behind, those will already be inserted. So you're buying one document from AIA. The documents will be purchased via their document on demand. If you know anything about the AIA website, they're a locked PDF. They're project specific. So you go on there, decide which ones you want, enter some project data, and then you purchase those via a credit card. And those become yours. You download them for that project. The documents can be printed as many times because they're on your computer now, so they can be printed as many times for that project that you're using. And these are in the process of being worked on right now. They'll probably be ready around July 1st. That's our target date anyway. Okay, moving along. Here are some of the documents, or here are the documents we're going to use. The top, let's see, the top four are the ones we typically use in our design, bid, build, along with our agreement with our architects. The next two there are the ones that we typically use. The B133 and the A133 are what we typically use for our construction managers at risk. And then the last four are those that we might use for construction manager advisor. And like I say, these will all be known as an AIA document, comma, SCOSE edition. Our manual revisions. We revised our 2015 State Engineers Manual in January 2016. The revisions were basically cosmetic in nature, so we didn't have to promulgate it, meaning we didn't have to advertise it in the South Carolina Business Opportunities publication, wait for public comment to come back before we could actually publish the manual because they were cosmetic. So we put that out there. But and then beginning in March, we revised some of our forms and asked all of our state agencies that were using projects that they start using those revised forms at that time. Since then, we now have a promulgation that's going on right now for our manual and some of the forms that are in our manual. And that promulgation will end July 1st. So if you have any comments or you'd like to go to our website and see under the, I believe it's the current OSC News, I think it's called, is the little tab that we have there. You can go and you can find what the proposed revisions that we have, and you can make comment concerning them. As far as the building codes are concerned, we will adopt the 2015 ICC building codes July 1st of this year. Projects that have been designed and then submitted to OSC prior to that date can still use the 2012 codes. If you plan on submitting schematics, say, after July 1st, then we would ask that you go ahead and start using the 2015 codes. One of the things, there's always an exception to the rule, and we occasionally have our design professionals ask us, well, what if, and I'm about to, and so on and so forth. And we typically tell them, well, contact your OSC project manager, and let's see what's best to do for your project. What we try not to do is use the 2012 code and then cherry pick portions of the 2015 on a particular project or vice versa. We try to stick with one code as we go through a particular design. Our improvement implementation plan. We had a firm called the Acaso Consulting Firm. They were contracted in 2015, and they performed a procurement business process analysis and improvement. Now, they did this not just the State Engineer's Office, but also for the Material Management Office, which some of you may know a little bit about. We buy the construction stuff, they buy the pencils and paper. Anyway, they looked at our processes to see what they could improve upon, what needed to be improved upon, what kind of processes we may need to change and move around, so on and so forth. Obviously, I can tell you that we were perfect in practically every way that we do our thing. Not necessarily, but you know. But they interviewed people from the Material Management Office and OSE personnel to see what it is we did, what our daily activities were. And the review included some of the procurement statutes and regulations. Along with that came this thing called the service level agreements. Now, the service level agreements is a document that we're going to be using with our agencies, and in particular, project managers of our agencies. The purpose is to establish milestones and deliverables that will be coming through the project development and through the actual procurement process into construction and obviously into the certificate of occupancy. Be used by us with the project manager. We'll begin this process close to or around the A1 approval site or when the project begins. And we'll complete this service level agreement. The service level agreement tries to establish dates and milestones for design reviews, for example, beginning of construction, ending of construction, building permits, and so on, and starts to get everybody to thinking about dates and milestones. This then can be shared with the A&E because typically A&Es are coming back with milestones for their project as well, and they need to know when they'll be submitting things. So that's what we're going to be using these service level agreements for. Now, obviously, in the beginning, when we ship these, or we sit down with our project managers, and we talk, agency project managers, and we talk to them about these dates that are coming up, we're talking about dates that may be a year, 2, maybe even 3 years into the future. So there are approximately 6 revision places on this form, on this agreement that we'll be using. I'm thinking we may need more than that, but be that as it may, we will be revising that along the way so that we can keep everybody on board with those milestones. The modifications to the procurement code, a CASO consulting firm, another part of their contract is to send out questionnaires to the agencies. And these questionnaires will be asking for the agency's input into the procurement process and in particular into the procurement code. I don't know if those have been received. John, have you guys received any? Okay. I don't know where they are in that process if they've sent those out. But if you are a state agency and you do receive a questionnaire from the CASO consulting firm asking what would you like to have done differently in the procurement code, that is your opportunity to change that. Many times we have people ask us, why don't you guys change the following? We don't have the lobby that a lot of agencies do for changing things in statutes and regulations. So we have to depend on our agencies to do that for us. Under this committee, this long-named committee that we have here, the state engineer is the chairman, John White, and it consists of these groups of people as well. All of these folks are involved in this committee. I think they have had one meeting. I was not a part of it, so I'm trying to speak for John and tell you a little bit about what they did at this meeting. The committee is supposed to meet quarterly, and their last meeting, I think first meeting, was May the 4th. Now their duties are to review and analyze rating systems for energy and sustainability. They monitor the development of rating systems, and of course, when we're talking about rating systems, we're talking about LEED, we're talking about green globes. They will assist in developing and implementing the methodologies for cost-benefit ratio of rating systems, and review and analyze rating systems for its use and effectiveness. A part of what they will do is the committee will then return and tell the state engineer's office what we should be doing, in particular what we should be doing differently. What we have done most recently is we have gone to NASFA, which is the National Association for State Facility People. That's not a P, it's an A on the end, whatever it stands for. And we asked them what they were doing as far as cost-benefit ratios, in particular looking at LEED and green globes. It's been amazing because we've had, of the 50 states, and I think most 50 states belong to this organization, we've had probably 8, maybe 10 states have come back and given us information. Of those 8 and 10, only a couple have said that they've been using LEED or they've been using green globes. A lot of them have, or several of them have said, we use our own method. They don't want to be involved with LEED, they don't want to be involved with green globes, but they are doing green and sustainability type work. Another thing that they've said is that in their state, they feel that the profession has moved forward enough to where people are designing with green in mind and sustainability in mind. So they don't want to spend the money to LEED or to green globes. Be that as it may, we're looking at all avenues of what is best for South Carolina and trying to get some lessons learned from these other people at the same time. And that's the end.